What's going on, everybody? And I didn't tell Jason this, but we were just hanging out, and I'm going to put this on the podcast. So, everyone, Mr. Jason
Ooh.
Mitchell, he has a song coming out tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Do the conversion if you don't live on the East Coast or wherever you live in the United States or abroad. Mr. Jason Mitchell, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good.
He's so excited.
Always.
Yeah.
Always pumped.
So tell everybody about your new song, man. I'm gonna post this up in a little bit. Let them know what you want them to know, and whatever you don't, keep to yourself. But let's um, let's get the people excited. What's the new song's called? Enough, right?
Yeah, so the song's called Enough, and I wrote it back in 2015. I hadn't even been playing for a year when I wrote it. And I kind of wrote it as a joke, which is
Yeah.
funny because it's probably one of my better written songs.
It's really
And
heavy.
so my mom was telling me like a story like when I started playing about how like George Thorogood had, that big hit song, One Shot, One Bourbon, One Beer, but he didn't drink. And I was like, that's crazy. How can you write a hit song about alcohol that you don't drink?
Right.
And so I just got it in my head like, what if I wrote like a bluesy song that kind of like took that same concept and just kind of wrote it as a joke? Like, you go out to the bar and you're drinking and you get too drunk, but then the bartender tries to cut you off and you're like, yeah, right. You're not going to stop me. Like, there's no way you're going
Right.
to cut me off. So, it's kind of like what the song is. Like, the song is a joke story about a guy who loves to go to the bar and drink whiskey, and the bartender goes to cut him off, and he's like, "Well, I'm still walking straight. Like, I'm good. Like, why do I need to stop drinking?" And when I originally wrote the song, like the lines kind of changed. Like, "Oh, I'm still walking straight. I'm still thinking straight. I'm still talking straight." But I kind of edited that back a little bit. So, um,
Hmm.
it was fun though, and I think it's a great song. I showed it to my friend Michael Trujillo, who's another local musician, and I was just like kind of joking with him, like, "Hey, check out this song. Like,
Hmm.
what do you think?"
Who's another
And
Southern Maryland genius slash alumni of the music scene?
and this guy was just like, "Dude, you got to play this at open mic tonight." I was like, "What are you talking about? I got to play this at open mic tonight? Like, the song is a joke." He's like, "No, dude, you need to add this song to your set list
Right.
forever." So I finally sat down with Randall Jones, who used to play with Philip Michael Parsons, and he has a little studio, like super simple setup, but he does crazy good stuff. And
Yeah, the quality of his recordings when you sent me I mean, just the demo track was
yeah, I mean he's
phenomenal.
so good. And he was just like, I start playing it for him, and he's like, okay, this is kind of like a simple guitar line. We'll see where it goes. Sing the first verse, and this guy's like, dude, I'm hooked. Like, this song is great. Like, I can't wait to finish this. And I'm like, okay, well, all right. See, he's like, joke song or not, this is a great song. And then I called you, and you're like, dude, this is the best song you've ever written. Like,
Yeah, you call it, dude. I didn't even know the song existed until, like, because
no,
we've done a lot of shows together, and you've never played that for me. Kind of like the bet I made. Like, I sent you that, and you were like, "Where'd that come from?"
yeah,
Like,
and
you sent me enough. I had never heard that before, and it was so. I was like, "Well, when did you do that?" And you're like, "Oh, well, I wrote this a while ago, but I just laid it down." And it was one of the hardest hitting tracks. And I think to everyone that's going to hear this thing tomorrow, they need to be prepared for an earful of um uh, it's pure happiness but also super alternative grungy goodness that gets me excited in the morning.
that grungy blues fusion.
Yeah, you're gonna make a new. It's not y'all alternative anymore. It's British funk or something.
British funk.
British funk.
You got the funk like Bootsy Collins.
Mm. We want the funk. Gotta have that funk. Ow.
So it's actually I actually recorded it onto a burn CD way like again this is like probably 5 years ago now, and
Jeez.
I was playing at Park Rock Fest, and I was on before Philip, and I was like, okay, well, I had made some burn CDs using a Zoom recorder with
Mm.
my friend Sumner, who's also
Sumner
Southern Maryland
Ambrose.
musician. Yeah, great guitar player. And well, I was like, you know what? Let's just let's just write it. Let's do it all on this little handy Zoom recorder I have with two quarter-inch XLR inputs and a condenser mic. And I was like, no, I'll make a little $3 burn CD, 4 tracks, and it was one of the songs on there, and he had some like cool harmonies in there, and I would like to think that those harmonies help inspired me come up with some of the harmonies that are actually on the song.
Your vocal performance is probably one of the best ones too. It's very tight. Like all of the pitches that you sang were very simple, but it was so melodic and it played off of the guitar very well. And it's not like a simple song musically, but everything that you did had a purpose. You know, like it's sonically everything makes sense.
Yeah, I think that comes from being so simple, and when you think about like some of the like best songs that like come out of like that classic rock like blues genre, you think about like, oh, these songs like they're not really complex. If you really think about it, like a lot of like blues and like classic rock songs, they're just catchy. They're catchy, and yeah, they have like guitar gods playing on them, doing solos and stuff like that. But at their core, they're very simple songs that make sense, and then they bring more to it with having like this simple palette and then having a great guitar solo or
Well,
having
that's a
like
good
all
point
this
because
stuff.
how many blues rock progressions have you heard written in the key of E?
Yeah, or
Where
D.
where it's an EA and where it's EAB.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you think about that, and like I think about like
That's
how
Stevie Ray Vaughan's entire catalog.
well, I think about how like rock stars go to the studio, and you get like Black Sabbath who sits down and they're like, oh, we need one more track, and then they come up with a song like Paranoid, where it's like the song in itself is not a super complex song. It is a song that you could, if you were really good at guitar, think of in 3 or 4 minutes, and then
Right.
have like something that's catchy but not boring. And then the more you play with the idea, the more you can add to it. So like the solo's good. It's a good solo that adds a lot to the song, but the song in and of itself, even like with as soon as you get out of the intro part, like it's a pretty basic chord progression, but that's one of their biggest hits.
I feel like the best way to go is honestly like if you're gonna do do that kind of thing is like simple is the more simple you can be the better. But when you start stacking things and you start layering all the different parts together and you actually start orchestrating a song, that's where you have the ability to make each part more interesting over top. You know, you might only make three or four chord song, but the more that you start layering all the tracks and you start figuring out, okay, well, this guitar is going to do this and the bass line is going to walk this way down,
Yeah,
and rhythmically,
absolutely.
that's where the interesting stuff
But then
comes
I
in.
mean, you come into this head where it's like I feel like music nowadays like it it's at a crossroad where it's like there's a lot of good simple music, but then there's music that's too simple, and then you get music that's too overproduced, and then you get music that's like too complex. And I feel like we get kind of caught up in like the production of music. Like everything has to be perfect. Like if you look at how like pop country is like you listen to a song and like you can hear the auto
It's
tune
all
where they
so
make it all perfect
formulaic.
and like the chord progressions are all they're all technically perfect. So there's like other genres that are like, well, this is what's selling perfection. And then you got like the math rock people and stuff like that, where it's like they also have like this certain level of perfection that they're trying to meet. And I feel like that's just not what classic sounds are about. Like if you listen to all of like the happy accidents that happened on like great rock albums that made them great, all the like little guitar parts that weren't necessarily supposed to be there but then came out great. I think that's something that should probably find its way back into popular music,
Well,
like being a little sloppy.
we rediscovered that on All In because that's a very raw track. It's four guitar tracks and bass and lead guitars. Like there's not much on that song, and when you came in to sing your harmonies, I think there was only what three or four harmony tracks, maybe, if
Yeah,
that.
because you know there wasn't a lot. There wasn't a lot to do is just enough to add something to it. And that's like what it's something I've been doing with Randall is it's just like, yeah, we have like the stereo panned harmonies and things like that,
Right.
but it's not like we're adding a bunch of other guitars. Like we were looking at like, oh, should we add a guitar to this, like a lead guitar? Like, where could we add it? And like Randall had some ideas and we put it down and I listened to it and I'm like, you know what? It doesn't feel like it's adding. It almost feels like you're putting this lead guitar in here because we think that we need another guitar, but in reality, the song in itself is supposed to be simple. The message is, although kind of like foolhardy, it's supposed to be like, it's still supposed to be a story, like start to finish. Like, hey, I'm a guy that likes whiskey. Hey, I'm at the bar, the bartender's cutting me off. Hey, I'm at home. I'm going to drink more whiskey at home.
Right.
Like that's
Do
the
you
whole song.
do you almost feel like, because I also think too, like there's some parts where when I think it needs something, I'm more inclined to put a guitar track down where I'm playing, like I'm augmenting the chords in the rhythm track. And so like I'll play like different thirds and sevenths on, like within the chord as I'm tracking, and giving the chord structure movement versus just layering another guitar part on. Like, do you think sometimes guitar players, like, because I'm guilty of this too, where like you'll lay down a rhythm and then you lay down the second rhythm. Well, then you've got the rhythm, so now you got to put a specified lead part on top of that. And then you got to put the solo section. And it's like, why don't you just make different movements within the parts?
So like there's a song like from my band's upcoming album where
Plug it.
like I kind of experience
Plug it.
it's a song called Borrowed Time and
There you
it's
go.
there's a very simple raw version on my Spotify, on my personal Spotify right now.
Jason
But
C. Mitchell music.
for the uh for the band one, what I ended up doing is instead of having like too much movement or like having a bunch of guitar parts that didn't make sense, what I did was I took the original rhythm and then instead of moving all of the guitars, I actually moved the bass up to the harmony line. And
Mm.
then I added in a doubled guitar that also mimicked the bass so that you didn't lose the guitar, but you didn't rely on the bass to carry it like you normally would. And so then on top of that, we also added another harmony part for the end. So you get this you get the bass, the guitar synced up. Then the bass moves up with a second guitar and then a third guitar comes in and does a harmony on top of the
Oh, that's
two
pretty
that are
trippy.
moving. So you almost make a chord with the movements, but you don't sacrifice the original guitar part.
That's actually really smart.
And
That's really smart.
it came from the fact that we were a bunch of guitar players that were like, what if we move the bass like we wish the bass would move? So then in that music, there's actually the bass does a lot more interesting stuff in order to keep from having to track a second guitar. So a second like rhythm guitar, I should say, because you get the front and center rhythm guitar, which I play most of the time, and then you have the ambient guitar that my friend Michael plays, and then the bass parts we kind of alternated who wrote them, and we use the bass to add or take away space instead of using the guitars to take or add away space.
Hmm.
I just said that backwards. Take or add away
I
space.
understood what you meant, though. I think
But
I
to
think
add
we
or
all
take
know.
away space, we tried to find different ways to do it without trying to just make the guitar move all the time or rely on the guitar to be everything.
Hmm. It's pretty good, man. It's good stuff. So, do me a favor, because we're gonna wrap this up, and I'm going to get to work on doing some editing and stuff. We just finished a songwrite session. I'm gonna probably sing some demos tonight and redo some lyrics, but so everyone can figure out where to find your music when I post this up. Your new song, Enough, comes out tomorrow, January 19th at 3 p.m.
Eastern
So
Standard Time.
Eastern Standard Time. Wherever the hell else
um,
you are in the world, figure it out.
so that's Jason C. Mitchell I'm on all major streaming platforms, and then you can also purchase it on iTunes if you feel so inclined.
Amazon as
Um,
well, correct?
yeah, yeah, you can buy it on Amazon or you can buy it on iTunes. And then you know what? Yeah, tomorrow, January 19th, 8 p.m. Zulu time. Well, you're welcome. You can convert from that instead.
Oh my god. It's Zulu time. Oh, what the hell is Zulu?
Zulu time is
Oh
0. It's the international date line. Goes through
my
Greenwich.
god.
You don't know your time zones?
Someone that lives there is gonna hear that and get so pissed off.
They're gonna be like, Zulu time, thank you. Like,
Oh,
there's someone
does
out there.
wait on
They'll
does
see
three
it. They'll have a clock in their house.
does 3
Zulu
p.m.
time.
actually equal 8 p.m. Zulu time? Eastern
Well, yeah.
Standard?
So,
How the
Eastern
hell do you know
Standard
that?
Time, Central Time, Mountain Time, which and then like Pacific Time. All that stuff is in relation to the international date line, which is 0. So, as you go west of the international date line, you subtract, and as you go east, you add. So if you
Okay.
are in China, you would be ahead, but if you're in the United States, you're behind. But even like there's only a couple exceptions to the rule. One of which being Spain, who changed their time zone to Germany's time zone so that they would have synced up clocks, since Spain and Germany were on the same side in World War II.
Right.
You're welcome. You've been educated.
And Germany just as a country decided that they were just gonna fucking
Well,
yell all the time.
no. Germany is they're the right time zone. It's Spain that was like, you know what? We're gonna change it. So
To
they're
Germany.
they're not in the correct time for their time zone. But whenever we have
So if
daylight
anyone
saving
ever
time for
asks,
either side,
are they early? They have no idea. They could be late for all they know.
well, they'll in Spain they take siesta, so they'll probably be asleep. That's an actual thing. Like their lunch break is longer because it's that's where that siesta thing comes from, the taking a nap like and having lunch. Like it's supposed to be more productive.
I'll
Like
be
you
honest
get to
with you.
go home
I
in the middle
believe
of the
you, but
day.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
What? Google it.
I'm gonna go Google it after this actually, because
Spanish siestas,
I feel like I'm highly
but in
uneducated compared to you.
Spain. Okay, it's not. They might do it in other countries. I'm not sure, but it like originates the concept like
From
should
Spain.
originate from Spain. Yeah, the
Okay.
country of Spain.
So if you Google Spain siestas,
Yeah, I don't. They might not do it anymore, but for a long time when I was growing up, that was kind of like, oh yeah, in Spain, this is what they do in order to try and keep their workers productive. They take a break in the middle of the day. Personally, if I went home, I'd be like, yeah, I'm not coming back. See you tomorrow.
well that's exactly what's happening in
Yeah,
America, but I
you
digress.
just point at him. You say, you got me for 8, right?
I'm coming back on Zulu time.
Go be back on Zulu time. When's that? Tomorrow, but 5 hours ahead.
So, well, this has been fun. I have a great time writing with you, and thank you for being my friend, and thank you for taking the time out to record
Thanks
this.
for being my friend. Thank you for being my friend.
Yes, I'm lonely. But yeah, so everyone go follow Jason C. Mitchell Music on all social media platforms, and also follow him on TikTok. He is on TikTok now. I am trying to flood his TikTok with requests to do different dances and perform, favors for people.
White.
Yeah, but you can dance. I've seen you dance.
You ever
you're
seen
not
the
that bad.
Carlton? That's about all I can do.
I've seen you Carlton very well, at the tavern, and it is fantastic. Okay. So we're gonna leave that at that. Southern Maryland people know what the hell we're talking about. But all right, we're gonna wrap this up. So everyone, please go follow Jason. Check out his new song "Enough" comes out tomorrow, January 19th at 3 p.m. Go follow him, and we will see you later on the Backstage Podcast. Bye. Say goodbye, Jason.
Adios. Siesta
Zulu.
time. Siesta
Zulu
time.
Siesta time. It's Corona time. All right, goodbye.